Although Google has several adequate HRM policies in place and it is known as an employer of choice, the team identifies the root cause of the firm's diversity issue as Google not having a supportive diversity climate. Managers should execute employee rights protection policies to create a more inclusive environment by implementing a variety of recruiting and HR practices focused on maintaining social accountability. In doing so, the team constructed policies and solutions using several social diversity theories. When it comes to Google's diversity, there is of course room for improvement in terms of inclusivity and making sure that underrepresented groups do not feel like they are the minority. In reference to the cognitive diversity theory, this suggests that there's a strong correlation between greater diversity and a team's depth to their problem-solving and idea creation capabilities. With that said, from 2020 to 2021, Google only experienced a slight increase in hiring women globally by 0.6%, resulting in 33.1% of the total hiring efforts made in 2021. Meanwhile, approximately 66% of the hires made were male. When it comes to cultural backgrounds, the most underrepresented groups in Google are those of Black, Latin, and Native American descent. Together, the Black and Latin community only accounted for 17.6% of the total hiring efforts made by Google in 2021, and those of Native American descent actually experienced a 0.1% decrease in hiring, going from 0.8% in 2020 to 0.7% in 2021. With these statistics in mind, there is clear indication where diversity suffers, and according to the cognitive diversity theory, Google is missing out on tons of potential for value to be added to the company, and there should definitely be a greater emphasis put on Google's ability to attract and hire individuals of diverse backgrounds. Some solutions to increasing Google's diversity in terms of hiring efforts would be to create a diversity management department whose sole purpose of the diversity managers would be to make sure that underrepresented groups have equal access to open role opportunities and are being assessed fairly by the internal hiring teams. Google currently has an employee and culture group that dedicates time towards building cultural awareness between internal employees, but there needs to be an emphasis on acquiring greater diversity numbers in the first place. Another solution would be to implement cross-training programs because underrepresented groups tend to be hired into similar functions. This would open the door for opportunity to departments that are historically comprised of highly represented ethnic and cultural groups to have insight on how diversity could perhaps help them innovate and increase operational output. Ashley Stahl from Forbes says that diverse teams are 87% better at problem solving and are 1.7 times more innovative. So this is something that Google should and has to take better advantage of in the long run.
At Google, they are having a difficult time creating an inclusive work environment where people of all backgrounds and nationalities feel like they are being treated fairly by their coworkers and superiors. On March 18th of this year, a Black woman named April Curley filed a lawsuit against the tech giant for systematically discriminating against Black people by denying them promotions to keep them in lower-level jobs and thereby underpaying them. As shown in their 2021 diversity report, a mere 4.4% of their employees identified as Black plus, meaning it included biracial workers who only identified as partially Black. This is far below the national average of 9.1% for digital publishing and search companies, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Even though many Black candidates fit the job qualifications for these positions, they often aren't considered to be, quote, googly enough, which has caused many to feel discriminated against because there really is no set definition of how to be, quote, googly. Many Black employees feel undervalued at the company as a result of these policies. To reform their policies and encourage more minorities to want to apply to their company, Google needs to take the initiative to listen to people from these minority groups and see how they believe they could be more cohesively included in their work environment. All levels of employees should feel safe to voice their concerns if they feel they are being treated poorly or if they have any suggestions on how to improve the work environment for their demographic. As Ms. Curley stated she did in the New York Times article, to recruit more diversified candidates for Google job positions, the company should continue to recruit talent from historically Black colleges and could implement these types of programs at colleges that are popular amongst the Latinx and Native American American students, which are two demographics that are poorly represented amongst Google's employees, as shown in their 2021 diversity report.
In today's current environment, one of the biggest challenges that faces corporations today is the topic and strategy involving DEI. What is DEI? DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. For moral, productivity, and overall attitude, it is essential that minorities feel adequately represented in the workplace. In addition, DEI is essential in order to attract the best talent. This is especially important to a company like Google. As the fourth largest company in the world, Google must take a lead and become the benchmark for other companies to follow as it pertains to HR strategic planning and recruitment. Although Google has taken steps to improve DEI with such partnerships as Performance Paradigm, the percentage of African American, Latino, and Native American employees is currently disproportionate to the current population as well as Google's entire workforce. This must improve, or Google runs the risk of serious moral issues and the loss of attracting the best talent. The role of Google's HR is instrumental to create and empower an organizational culture that fosters DEI. Google needs to establish ways to better refine and/or develop the process of hiring the stated minority classes. Some of the ideas for human resource. Number one, human resource can broaden the places and ways to look for prospective employees. Google can establish pilot programs in the inner cities around the country that cater specifically to underrepresented minorities. Lack of education from a financial standpoint is a huge barrier to many in the inner city. These programs can offer free training in the skills necessary to level the playing field and compete for positions at Google. Also, Google can partner with public schools and community colleges to attract diverse talent. Google can also make an impact in the Native American community as well. Google can partner with tribal leaders and create free educational and training opportunities within Native American reservations across the U.S. This could have a great impact in increasing the number of qualified Native American applicants. Last, but certainly not least, Google can increase the number of internships to underrepresented minorities by creating a lottery. This would allow an opportunity for more spots for the underrepresented. Though many of these ideas for HR may take time to implement and realize the quantitative impact, we feel that if Google starts today, they can increase their marginalized workforce by up to 20 to 25% in the next 5 years. So we see that the disparity of Google workforce as it pertains to the state of minorities is a problem. However, implementing these common sense solutions could have tremendous positive impact. Google has the reserves, and it is time to reimagine the way Google's human resources changes the employee landscape in a positive direction.
Thank you, William. Appreciated that. Here is a graph of a percentage change over 5 years in representation among managers. The top one has poor return as usual diversity program, and the bottom one is getting good results. The key problem making diversity program getting poor return is where the equality gap has a place to hide. It will remain there without much change. The solution to that is to encouraging transparency on social accountability to force people to think when they might have to explain their decisions. Once it's clear the equality gap can no longer hide, it will disappear. And we recommended doing it with the following steps. First, assemble corporate diversity task force with department heads, volunteers, and members of underrepresented groups. Second, gather diversity numbers for the whole company, for business units, and for departments. Third, review those numbers every quarter or two to figure out what needs attention. Fourth, investigating where the problems are. For example, recruitment, career backlog, etc. Last, come up with solutions. The theory behind is, according to study, when people know they might have to explain their decisions, they are less likely to act on bias. And here's two real-life successful cases. First, a field study conducted by MIT, a firm found they consistently gave African Americans a smaller raise than whites, even when they had identical job title and performance ratings. So they tried transparency to activate social accountability. The firm posted each unit's average performance rating and pay raise by race and gender. Once the manager realized that employees, peers, and supervisors would know which part of the company favors whites, the gap in races all disappeared. The second case is Deloitte in 1992 found half the company hires were women, but nearly all of them left before they were making anywhere near making partner. The CEO assembled a high-profile task force that relied on transparency to get results. The task force get each office to monitor career progress of its women and set its own goals to address local problems. When it became clear that the CEO and other managing partners were closely watching, women started getting their share of premier clients, assignments, and informal mentoring. In 8 years, turnover among women dropped to the same level as men, and proportion of female partners increased from 5 to 14%, the highest percentage among big accounting firms. By 2015, 21% of Deloitte global partners were women, and in March of that year, Deloitte appointed its female CEO, making her the first woman to lead a major accounting firm. Thank you very much. Now Adam will talk about psychological effects and ethnic minorities.
Studies suggest that a diverse workplace psychologically affects its employees, but the crucial element depends on management. In Google's case, transparency must be prioritized so as to avoid future lawsuits. According to the studies, when managed correctly, various cultures, races, colors, religions, sexes, national origins, and ages compiled into a single workforce have been found to result in less turnover rate, the employees of all demographics feel included, the employees realize their full potential, and there is greater creativity and innovation. However, if Google continues to manage their diverse workplace incorrectly, it may result in an increase in harassment and discrimination, or an intergroup conflict supported by the fault line theory. The fault line theory suggests that demographic differences resulting in subgroups or coalitions increase the salience of in-group, out-group differences, resulting in further polarization, competition, and conflict. The key to managing diverse employees is to create situations such as random team member shuffles where Google employees work together rather than compete without the potential for self-segregation. Another way to think about it would be to keep stirring the melting pot. Another aspect of diversity in Google's workforce is the hiring of ethnic minorities to expand resource capabilities. Google employs ethnic minorities to obtain critical resources. Different diversity strategies are needed for different critical resources. The resource dependency theory suggests that the quest to accrue critical resources drives organizational strategies. A few examples of critical resources include money, know-how, technology, individual behaviors, capabilities, and social networks. From a worldwide perspective, it is of utmost importance for Google to manage diversity correctly, keep stirring the melting pot, and continue hiring ethnic minorities.
The next sub-issue is glass ceiling. Google faced several discrimination claims. The main claim is discrimination against white employees. Google Diversity Annual Report shows that the percentage of white employees are 43% in 2020 and 44.5% in 2021, which shows an increase in hiring white people. However, Statista Data Report shows that the percentage of white employees are 51.7% in 2020 and 50.4% in 2021, which shows a decrease in white employees. Google actual hiring behavior doesn't answer to discrimination claims against white employees. Several former Google employees filed case against the company. James Damore, a former employee, criticized the company hiring behavior and filed a lawsuit claiming the company discriminates against conservatives. In 2021, nearly 11,000 former female Google workers filed a lawsuit claiming the tech giant engaged in systemic and pervasive pay and promotion discrimination against its female employees in California. April Crowley and other former and current black employees filed a case against Google. Crowley stated she was unlawfully terminated from her position after she told managers she was creating a report on Google's discriminatory practices. The solution for glass ceiling problem is Google should enforce employees' protection policies, which contribute to the following: increase innovation, problem solving. Great companies are built on new ideas. Companies implement differentiation strategy, compete in the blue ocean rather than the red ocean. Positive brand name lead to talent acquisition. Promote the company positive public image, lead to the public respect and customer base increase. Increase employees' support of Google mission and vision, which increases revenues and reduces waste. Fair compensation system, achieve cost leadership strategy, and protect the company from discrimination lawsuits. The United States government created equal employment opportunity policies which are federally mandated. That's why many talented people escape their countries, immigrate to the US to work in a better work atmosphere. Private organizations like Google should implement employee protection policies. Talented people seek working in organizations that support diversity and enforcing employee protection policies. HR executives should encourage hiring minorities and disabled individuals. Google should publicize global beliefs concerning how the organization values its employees' contribution and care about their well-being. The top management should explain why policies at the firm level are related to the perceptions of support at the individual level. Any challenge affecting any employee affects Google as well. When employees feel that Google care about their well-being, they assert the company dedicates their effort to achieve the company mission and values. Performance appraisal and compensation system should be slowly based on the employee performance evaluation, value to the company, and work environment. The human asset is the most crucial in the company. Organizations count on their employees to grow and win. Winning increases the employees' compensation, makes them feel financially secure, increasing the firm profitability. Stockholders invest in winning companies. Winners contribute generously to the economy by sponsoring local hospitals, schools, and clubs. Diverse companies win and grow, therefore diversity leads to a better outcome for everybody. Let's make Google the Earth's best employer and the safest place to work.
Though Google is known as a sought-after place of employment for those interested in working in the tech industry, their human resource policies regarding diversity and their treatment of minority group employees leave much room for improvement. In an effort to improve the workplace culture for minorities, they need to implement policies to allow minority workers a fair chance of advancement in the company and ensure they are receiving equal treatment as compared to their fellow non-minority employees. To ensure this happens, Google should develop diversity task forces whose sole purpose is to resolve issues before they turn into lawsuits. They should also strive to hire from a more diversified group of people. Since most of their employees are white and Asian, they need to establish programs involving internships and reach out to colleges that are popular among minority groups in an effort to build their interest in working for Google. By doing all of these things, Google can build a more supportive and diverse workforce where people of differing backgrounds can work cohesively. This will increase employee satisfaction and lower employee turnover rate, improving overall employee morale.